Welcome to this video about coordinated entry in the Iowa Balance of State. It is designed as part of required training for Access Point staff who may be interacting with people seeking housing assistance. It may also be used to explain the basics of coordinated entry to community stakeholders wishing to better understand homeless services in Iowa, including agencies considering participating in coordinated entry or just wanting to better understand the process. Our hope is that this video will provide a basic understanding of coordinated entry and how entities can participate, as well as to provide you with confidence in explaining coordinated entry within the communities you serve and to provide a tool for helping you do so. Here is a map of the coordinated service regions within Iowa. Regions will be referenced throughout this video. For a copy of the map, visit the website shown at the end of this presentation. It is important in discussing coordinated entry to understand that the goal is to assist households obtain housing. We'll refer to households sometimes here, but remember that the term includes those we're trying to help, whether they are an individual or a family. Here is the definition of HUD's Category 1 homelessness. Don't be intimidated by its length. The key thing to remember is that it applies to a person or a family sleeping in a place not meant for habitation. This describes the stereotypical circumstance of someone sleeping in their car, on a park bench, in a barn, an abandoned house, under a bridge, etc. It does not include people who are doubled up with a family member, couch surfing at various friends' homes, or otherwise sleeping in functional housing. However, these households could be eligible for diversion or prevention resources. One recent change that has expanded, at least temporarily, housing resources is new funding made possible through the federal 2020 CARES Act. This funding can be used for homelessness prevention. It is for qualifying households currently housed but at imminent risk of being forced out of housing. This type of assistance is also accessed through the coordinated entry system. For those who present as literally homeless, a question we must ask is this person sleeping in a place not meant for human habitation, given the description above? If the answer is yes, they are most likely literally homeless. If they do not appear to meet the definition, it does not mean you can't offer them help. They may, for instance, be eligible for homelessness prevention support. People should be offered connections to whatever resources are available locally. If they are in need of shelter, they should be directed to whomever manages existing services, whether it is a homeless shelter, motel voucher system, or other arrangement. Category 1 homelessness also includes those already sheltered. The process for entering those currently in shelter uses the same assessment tool as for anyone else. Those staying in shelter are typically not entered into the homeless system immediately upon going to shelter, as experience has shown that they often self-resolve within 2 weeks of entering shelter. Once in the safety of a shelter, people are often able to more rationally assess their situation and find new options leading to resolution. Those seeking to escape domestic violence should be offered the option to be referred to the local domestic violence or DV services provider. Make sure they feel they can safely do so. Additional training for Access Point staff provides guidance on handling situations when someone is in imminent danger. A person in a domestic violence situation has the right to opt not to access domestic violence services or to delay accessing such services. They also have options as to how their data are shared, since there are 2 database systems, one for those dealing with domestic violence and one for those who are not. In addition to other safeguards, the coordinated entry system is particularly set up to protect the information of DV victims and get them quickly into a safe housing situation. Only the DV agency serving them has access to more information, which cannot be shared without the client's approval. Who participates in coordinated entry? Well, those seeking housing, but their role in the process is not burdensome. They simply need to indicate their need for housing. The rest of the players are charged with assessing client needs and helping them to identify the most appropriate housing intervention. Key roles include Designated Lead Agency, or DLA. This is the entity that manages coordinated entry in each region. Their responsibilities include managing a list of applicants, more on this shortly, ensuring the secure and timely management of client data, and education and marketing about the services available. Some of these may choose to become access points. These are places where people go to or call in order to access homeless services and where staff are specifically trained to do assessments, diversions, and help people initiate the process of acquiring housing. Community collaborators can be anyone who encourages a household to seek homeless services. This may be a counselor, probation officer, clergy, physician, or family member, to name a few. The important thing is that those making referrals know how to connect people in need to an access point or phone number. Community collaborators in many cases can serve as advocates on behalf of those they are helping at meetings where lists of applicants are discussed. Getting there shortly, I promise. It is important to understand that a foundational principle of coordinated entry is housing first. Housing first is an evidence-based premise that people experiencing homelessness and any other challenges should first be ensured of safe, stable housing and then provided with wraparound services to help address health, income, and other challenges. There are different types of housing programs available through coordinated entry. Some are provided through private sources, state and local funding, or are supported through federal sources other than HUD. Federally funded programs including Emergency Solutions Grant, Continuum of Care, and supported services for veteran families are required to participate in coordinated entry. Another key principle of coordinated entry is the belief that everyone deserves the opportunity to live in safe, stable housing. No one is more or less deserving of a place to live. Scoring assessment for coordinated entry is based on need. Those whose barriers and challenges are greatest are recommended to receive longer-term support called permanent supportive housing, because it is likely to take them longer to overcome their challenges than someone facing fewer or less complex issues. Others have fewer obstacles to overcome and are recommended to receive rapid rehousing or supportive case management services to self-resolve. Rapid rehousing is rental assistance for those currently experiencing homelessness, plus access to whatever support services might be needed. Think of people who may have faced a period of unemployment or high medical expenses. Maybe they fell behind in meeting rent and other bills to the point where they lost their previous housing. Some people who might meet the definition of literal homelessness do not receive immediate assistance because their barriers are few and they have other housing options, such as remaining with family or have secured permanent housing arrangements in the near future. So how does coordinated entry work? How does an individual or family experiencing homelessness get housed? Here on this slide, we can see the basic elements of coordinated entry. A household typically finds out how to access help from a community partner. Any of these partner agencies can also be access points themselves. Then the household either goes to an access point or more typically calls a phone number. The first step is to ensure that they have a safe option for the night and then to refer them to appropriate sheltering options if needed. Once we establish that no imminent danger is present, we find out about the household situation in order to do a preliminary assessment. Sometimes people just need someone to listen and offer support and reassurance. People who are experiencing homelessness are in crisis and often have a difficult time seeing anything beyond their immediate circumstances. This initial conversation offers an opportunity to help those in crisis identify and access unrealized assets. This is called diversion because it may result in diverting the household from needing to enter the system at all. The next step is to determine whether or not the household is literally homeless. It may be the case that the person is doubled up with friends or family and can safely remain so for at least a short period while they secure a more permanent housing situation. Or they may be able to make such arrangements, even if they had slept in their car or camped out the past few nights. When someone can be in a safe environment for a period, they often self-resolve, meaning that perhaps with help from family and local services, they are able to secure a stable housing situation. When available, a household may be referred to a shelter program. This is still a form of diversion, since coordinated entry is designed only to get people into permanent housing. and people in shelter often self-resolve, though they can enter the coordinated entry system if they are not able to find housing. When diversion does not meet people's housing needs, they are assessed using a tool called the VI-SPDAT, which stands for Vulnerability Index Service Determination Data Assistance Tool. That's 56 letters in all, which is why we just call it the VI-SPDAT. There are versions for individuals, youth, and families. Training is required on the VI-SPDAT for anyone planning to administer it. More on this and other trainings is available. A slide at the end of this presentation will show links. The assessment is used to help determine the best options for a household. Their score will help give housing providers a sense of what intervention may best address the household's barriers to obtaining and maintaining housing. The reference to a system and the explanation so far may have already clued you in that coordinated entry is not first come, first served. Periodically, but typically every week, housing program representatives get together by video or phone conference on what is called a pull meeting. I told you we'd get to the meetings where things really happen. These meetings take place within each of the several regions, as shown on the map at the beginning of this presentation. Names of those for whom assessments have been conducted are placed on a prioritization list that is utilized at the pull meeting. A great thing about pull meetings is that those who know applicants as clients can participate and advocate on behalf of that person or family on the prioritization list. And you don't have to be an access point. Staff can participate so long as their agency has on file a memorandum of understanding with the Institute for Community Alliances. You can find downloadable versions of the MOU on ICA's website, which will be shown at the end of this presentation. Households are contacted after pull meetings and offered the housing option determined at the meeting. They have the right to refuse that option, in which case they remain on the prioritization list with the same score. They do not move to the back of the line in any way. Remember that the assessment measures vulnerability or need, and those with the most needs get served first. Some may not get housed immediately, but households remain on the list until they are housed, self-resolved, or can no longer be located. It is also possible for households to be entered into housing programs between meetings in urgent situations. It requires an assessment of the prioritization list at that time to determine that the assessment score of that person or family would not preclude a higher scoring household from being placed. People may also request to be considered for programs in another region. They simply need to indicate that it is their preference to relocate. So, to review, coordinated entry is a system for moving people from homeless situations into permanent housing efficiently, quickly, and using a scoring system that prioritizes those with the greatest needs. For most agencies, organizations, offices, or departments, participation roles include serving as a referral source, community collaborator, advocate, access point, or any combination. Pull meetings utilize a prioritization list on a regional basis to place households in programs. Those who participate must have an MOU on file. Households move off the prioritization list and into housing. That's the goal of coordinated entry. Here is information on accessing resources discussed throughout this presentation. Thank you for playing a role in coordinated entry. Thanks for watching this video.